Making digital stickers can be a very fun and creative way to make some money. However, you might be thinking that you need some kind of artistic skill set in order to be able to create these. But I'm telling you that that's not the case, because I can't draw a stick figure on paper. However, digital art, with a little bit of practice, whole other ballgame. So today I'm going to show you how you can create adorable digital stickers to sell on your digital Etsy shop, no matter what your skill set. I will go over the options that you have as far as curating versus creating. I will go over different programs that you can use and explain a bit of the differences between each, and I will let you know which programs I prefer to use. I'll also go over how to export your images so that they come out nice and crispy without being too large to where you're going to take up a lot of space on your customer's iPad or computer and maybe stress the programs out. And lastly, I will be going over how to create a Goodnotes sticker book, which has basically become the standard for digital planner stickers. So we have a lot to go through, so let's get right into it. Creating your own graphics versus purchasing graphics. You basically have a few options. You can create your graphics on your own, or you can purchase other people's graphics with commercial use, or you can do some kind of combination of both. I prefer to create my own graphics because I like something unique that nobody else could possibly be selling. Because sometimes when you purchase graphics, you will find other people selling similar things. There is a learning curve to doing this. It takes a little while to create the skills and also kind of come up with your own style, if you will, which is something I'm still trying to figure out how to do. If you think that you might want to create graphics on your own and you just feel like you don't have the talent for it, I really urge you to try anyway. Nowadays, with programs like Procreate and Illustrator, with a bit of practice and all the videos that you can find on YouTube, it really is possible for anybody to do it, I promise. I'm gonna go over a little bit more about this later on in the video. But if you prefer to just go ahead and purchase your graphics, or maybe you want to start out with this at the beginning, there are plenty of places that you can go to purchase graphics. You can go to Etsy, you can go to Creative Market, Envato Elements, and there's so many more. Purchasing digital graphics for the purpose of selling digital stickers can sometimes be a little bit tricky, because a lot of the sellers really don't want you to resell them as a digital product. They want you to use them in another project. So what you can do is you can purchase the elements that you can use into a bigger picture. So you're not drawing everything from scratch, but you can still create something unique that you're now able to sell digitally. You really just want to be careful and read the commercial license and the details in that commercial license when you are purchasing on any of these sites. It is important to decide what program you think is going to work best for you. Reason being, sure, you could always switch down the road, but you don't really want to spend a lot of time investing in how to learn something and how to hone your skill in that particular program just to turn around and change it later. Any program you choose is going to have a learning curve to it. So you don't want to waste too much time learning how to use one program just to turn around and switch programs. I'd like to give you a little bit of information about different types of programs before you go into trying to decide which program is going to work best for you. And the main difference between different types of programs are going to be raster versus vector. Raster images are made up of pixels. The higher the number of pixels, the higher quality the graphics is going to be. When you zoom in on a raster image, the picture will become jagged and pixelated. Raster images and programs will allow you to display a wider range of colors, permit greater color editing, and show you finer light and shading than vectors. Raster programs will be better for more detailed images with texture and shading. Some examples of raster programs are Photoshop, Procreate, and GIMP. Vector, on the other hand, instead of using pixels, is made up of mathematical equations. This allows for images to be scaled up or scaled down without losing any quality. You will always have crisp edges. With Vector, generally you're gonna have less detailed artwork as far as coloring and texture. You can do this in Illustrator, however, it takes a lot more skill than using a program like Procreate. Examples of these programs are Illustrator and Inkscape. Now think about what types of illustrations and graphics that you're gonna wanna create. Okay, so let's get into my preferences for programs. And the two programs that I use are Illustrator and Procreate. They're the ones I use the most. There are some other programs that I use, but majority of the time it's going to be one of these two programs, or a lot of times both. I'll explain in a minute. Let me go over what Procreate is first. And that is a raster program, and it is an app for the iPad. So you use your Apple Pencil and you can hand draw graphics and color them in with different brushes and textures and colors, and it's really an amazing program. I use it for any of my stickers that I want to be more detailed, or if it's just easier to just draw it by hand than to try to figure out how to create it out of shapes in Illustrator. There are a ton of free tutorials on YouTube about Procreate. It is probably the most popular digital drawing program out there. Let me show you a quick tutorial of how it works. I never imagined that I would be able to draw anything before this program. So I want to show you just how easy it is, the different things that you can do in here, and that way you can make an educated decision on what kind of program you want to use for creating your stickers. So first we're going to start off with how to create a canvas. So you're going to hit the plus here, all right? And then there's some preset canvases here. The one I usually use is 3000 by 3000 pixels. However, I am used to creating printable stickers that are going to be printed out. So I usually use the CMYK, but if you're creating digital stickers, you really want to stick with RGB. So if we want to create a new profile here, we could just do 3000 by 3000. And what I do want you to look at here is the DPI is 300 is the maximum layers. This number is going to depend on which iPad you have. So I have the iPad Pro. It has, I think, the max amount of storage. So the bigger and more powerful your iPad is, the more layers you're going to have. If the layers are too low, if you think you're going to need more, then as you decrease the size of the canvas, you will get more layers, okay? And then the other thing we're looking at is the color profile. RGB is really what you want to stick with if you're doing digital work, okay? So now we're just going to hit create, and it's going to create our new canvas. Now, I'm just going to start kind of from the right side, work my way left, and just show you the different things very quickly. This is the color. Okay, you have your color wheel here. It's pretty standard. You can pick your color throughout. Okay, you also have the classic version of it. It's the same thing. Harmony, where you can pick complementary colors if you click here, and split complementary, and vice versa. And they're going to base that off of your current color selection. That could really help you if you're trying to figure out what colors to add into a picture. And then let's skip over here. Value, these are the different values you can change that way, or you can add in your actual hex code. And then we have palettes. I have a ton because I follow a lot of people on YouTube. There are tutorials and they will give you palettes most of the time that you can just download, but you can create your own. So I have one for my business. I have created some for sticker packs that I've created. If you have a general color theme for a sticker pack, go ahead and create your palette, and then you can click this button and set it as default. And that's when we go back over here, that is the palette that you're going to see here. And that makes things a lot more convenient as well. Okay, next over we have our layers. This is where all the magic happens. This is what is going to allow you to create some amazing stuff that you never thought you could create. I will get into a little bit more into this in a second, but if you want to add a new layer, you just click this plus. If you want to delete a layer or duplicate a layer, you slide to the left and then you either hit duplicate or you just hit delete, okay? This is the eraser tool, pretty self-explanatory. Once something is drawn, if you need to erase something, you select that here. The only thing about this that you may want to know is this is going to be the last brush you used in the eraser tool, no matter what brush you're using over here to draw. If you want your eraser tool to be the same as your brush, which is usually what you're going to want, you just click and hold and it will make it your current brush. That's all you really need to know there. Also over here is where you can change the size or opacity. This is a smudge tool. Don't really use it that often, more for color, for smudging color. And then here's the brushes. So we're gonna click on that again, and it's gonna bring up the whole brush library. I have a lot more in here because I've gotten some, I've purchased some along the way. Very, very popular for people to purchase new brushes, but there are a good amount that start here, and they have them from here down are all come in Procreate, and they have them categorized pretty well, all different brushes. Okay, so let's start off with the calligraphy. I like the monoline brush. When you're starting off, this is a good one because it's not going to be pressure sensitive. You're gonna get the same thickness no matter how hard you press, whereas if you use one like this, the harder you press, the lighter you press, the bigger it is. The calligraphy, the monoline is the same no matter what you do. Okay, moving on to the left side here, we have the select tool. If you have something drawn here, you can then click the select tool and you can move it around and you can resize it. Just know that this is going to be for the whole layer, okay? So if I have something over here too, it's going to select the whole layer. So if you have it on different layers, let's change this color and draw this. If I have this layer selected, it is going to only grab what's on that layer, and that is all. Okay, so now we have the next one over here where it's going to give you lots of options on the bottom for copying and pasting, for moving things around, for selecting. If you wanted to select only a section, oops, and lots of options. I'm not going to go into all of these options right now. I just want you to see the types of things you can have. I did want to show you this one, however. Let's show you Gaussian blur because this one is definitely something that can help you with colors. However, so let's just add a color to this canvas. Let's go ahead and let's add a different color here. Let's do a pink, maybe. Let's do this one, okay? I'm gonna go ahead, I'm going to add this. Why is it doing that? There we go. I have a bit of a line here, so let's just fill this line in. Not that it matters that much, we're just gonna fill that in. Okay, so now what I wanna show you is the magic of Gaussian blur. We're gonna go here, and then we're gonna drag the pencil, and we're gonna blur this together and look at, and this just allows you to get a really cool gradient effect. And now coming over here to the wrench icon, let's go ahead and let's delete this layer. It's gonna automatically create a new layer. We go over here, it's this drawing guide. This is the thing that's gonna help you when you are maybe not the best with drawing, like myself. So this is really gonna help you a lot. So we're going here and we're looking at, this is just the 2D grid. So when you're in here for the 2D grid, you just wanna click Drawing Assist. This bar up here is just controlling the colors of the lines, just so that if you're having trouble seeing it, you can change the color. You will not see these lines in your exported finished product. Click Done, and what this is gonna do is it's going to only allow you to draw horizontal and vertical lines. No matter how much you try to get off of those lines, you can't do that, okay? If we go back to edit drawing, we have the same thing, isometric, which is all only diagonals. It's only going to let you draw diagonally. But the one that I use the most is the symmetry tool. And you have a few options here: vertical, horizontal, quadrant, and radial. The one I use mostly is vertical, but you can see the line. If you can see, I don't know if you can see that line. So when using the vertical guides, it's going to mean that anything you draw on the right side or the left side is going to show up identical on the other side. And so let's say you wanted to draw a heart, it's going to make it exactly symmetrical on both sides. Just remember when you're using this tool that you want to make sure your layer says assisted. If I start a new layer here to draw on top, it is not going to say assisted, and it will not draw on both sides. So you have to click here and then click on drawing assist, and then it will work on both sides. And if you want to turn it off, you just click back on it, and now it will be off again. Here is where you can control the size of your brush, up and down, bigger and smaller. And here is where you can control the opacity of your brush. So you see it's a little more lighter, more airbrushed. You can see things under it. Use this more for colors and shading. So that is actually just the bare basics, but really the magic really happens in your layers. So really quick, before we jump off of here, I'm going to show you my little doggy that I've drawn. I think is a good example of what I'm talking about. Okay, so you start off with a rough sketch, just a very rough sketch, and you can see him down here in my layers. And then what you can do is you can turn down the opacity. See, he's all the way down. This was the sketch before. And then you turn the opacity down, and then you can create a new layer on top of it to ink the actual lines on top of, which is this. This is the inking that I did afterwards. And then you simply turn off, by checking this little box on and off, you turn off that sketch layer. And now look, it's just the outline. And then on separate layers, you can add color, and you can add shadows, and you can add highlights, and you can add a background. And see, it all comes together, and that's how you would export it. And it looks super cute, and you would never know that all of these layers existed, or that this sketch started on the bottom. And if you turn off layer, like let's say I want to export the sky without the background, you simply turn off the layer, and now when you export it, that's how it will be. But one extra point is that if you're exporting something like this to use as a sticker, and you do not want that white background, you want it to be transparent, just turn off the background before you export it. And that's it. I mean, it's amazing what you can do with Procreate. I definitely recommend trying it out for yourself. Okay, let's talk about Illustrator then. I like to use Illustrator for more simple graphics, for boxes and circles and anything that I really don't need to draw by hand. There is a large learning curve to this one. However, you can find tons of tutorials on YouTube that show you how to do it. And I personally think it is worth the time to learn how to use this program because it is a vector program. Let's jump into the computer and I will give you a quick tutorial. So now we're going to go into Illustrator and I'm going to show you the types of stickers and how I create these types of stickers in Illustrator. They are more on the simple side, and Illustrator just makes things a lot easier to space them properly and copy and things like that. So I'm going to show you really quick how I create a simple habit tracker. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to create a new file. So you can do that by coming over to File, New, or you can just create New File. And from here, it doesn't really matter at this point what size you're going to use. For reasons that I will explain later in the tutorial, I typically will just go with a 3x4 or a 3x3, and I have mine set in print because typically I will create stickers that I'm using for print and I'm using for digital. If you're doing strictly digital, you could use RGB. There's a larger color range there, but because I typically use it for both, I just leave mine at CMYK. Okay, so now you just click create and it's going to create your artboard for you here. Now I know that this looks like a lot, especially when you start clicking on some of these things. But don't worry, I'm just going to show you the few things that I do to give you an idea. If you want to learn how to use this program, there's tons of tutorials out there. There is a learning curve, I'm not going to lie. But you definitely don't need to know everything in this program in order to make some stickers. So I'm just going to show you really how easy and quick it is to make a fairly simple functional sticker in here. So I'm actually just going to go over here to one of my sticker sheets that I have from my other shop, and I'm just going to bring one of these over just so I can have an example up here at the top for you. Okay, so here's what we're going to make. Super simple. It's just a regular weekly habit tracker. First, we're going to start over here, and we are going to come over to this rectangle box. You want to click on that. We'll left click, and now we'll be able to draw a box. If you hold your left mouse, you can see there are other options, but we're just going to use the rectangle tool for right now. Nice and simple. Okay, so basically you're just going to click and you're going to drag out a box. So you just click the mouse and drag it out until about the size you want. Okay, let's come over here. Let's give this a fill so we can actually see it. Let's fill it with this green. Okay, just click off of that. Now, you see that we are actually still on rectangle tool here. So let's go ahead, and this is actually a rectangle as well, and we'll draw another rectangle here on top of it. Okay, and now this rectangle we want to be white, so let's go over here and we'll change it to white. So now to get out of the rectangle tool, we just want to go up here to the selection tool, and you want to use the one all the way at the top. I'm not going to get into the direct selection tool now, but just the regular selection tool is fine. So now what you'll notice about this one is that the corners are curved. If you click on, let's click on the back box, you can see these little nodes here. And these little nodes are for the corners, for rounding the corners. So if I just click and hold and drag one down, all of the corners there are going to curve, and we'll just do it until we see something we like. Okay, so then go back to the selection tool. Now, if you see this box, we only have 2 corners curved. And so let's click on this box. Now to do that, you're going to have to select these 2 corners only. So what we're going to do, if you select this one and let off of the mouse, and then click it again and hold and drag, then you're dragging just that one corner. If you want to select 2, we're going to click that one, and then when we go to click the second one, you're going to hold shift. And then as you hold shift, you will click it. And now you'll be able to see, so I'm holding click, hold shift, click again. You can see that the nodes turn to regular, almost bold circles instead of these little bullseye looking things. And that will tell you that those 2 are selected. So now if I click, hold, and drag, both of these corners will now curve as they come in. Okay, so let's do something like that. That looks good. We can click off there, and now we see the 2 are curved, and the bottom 2 have stayed pointy. So anytime you want to select more than one item, you can, after selecting the first one, hold shift and select the second one. And the same thing goes for deselecting. We have both of these selected. If I wanted to, if I selected this as well up here, we now have 3 items selected. Let's say, oops, I didn't mean to select this one. You hit the shift and then select this again, and it will deselect it, okay? So you just hold the shift button. Now that we have that part, we can, how about we create the text now? So you find the text over here. That's the type tool. If I click on that, I will then be able to create a text box. So let's just go ahead and make a box here, and let's type in S. Let's make them capital. Okay, so now I have an S type there. So what I'm going to do here, just have to make this box a wee bit smaller, is I want to copy and paste these so that we have letters for every day of the week. So we need to copy and paste it 6 times. So the first way, the easiest way to copy one is to click on it, hold the mouse, and then you're going to hold alternate. So when you hold alternate down and then you move the mouse over, you are going to make a copy of it. If I wanted to keep it exactly lined with this first one, I can hold the shift and it will keep it in line. So like let go and then you've made a copy. And then if you want to repeat anything that you've done, you can hit Control or Command D. It's going to repeat the last thing that you did. So that makes it really easy because now I have 3 and then I could do 4, 5, 6, 7. So now I have 7 individual text boxes created. So all I need to do is double click in here and I can edit this text. Double click in here and I'll edit the text and we'll go through and we'll edit all of these. I will show you what to do with those boxes where it looks like the text has disappeared in just 1 second. Okay, so I'm going back to the selection tool to select out of text. Now you could see here these two text boxes look like they have nothing in them, and that's simply just because the font has become bigger than the text box itself. So you just need to click and drag out the text box a little bit. Okay, so now we have our letters. And so now what we really want to do you want to pick a font? Let's pick a different font. We can now select, the next way, I'll show you the next way that you can select a thing is if you're selecting a bunch, sure, you can click one and hold shift and click each one, right? Make sure you click on them. And you could do it that way. But an easier way to do when you have a lot of things you want to select is just to drag a box over all of it. So you just left click and drag, and you drag a box. Now the only problem here is that the back box is now selected and we don't want that. So like I said before, you hold shift and click to deselect. Okay, so now we have all the letters selected here. We can go ahead and we can change the font to whatever we want to change it to. Let's change it. We'll change it to this font. Okay. And now the next thing you might notice, okay, well, they're all unevenly spaced. With all of that text highlighted, we're going to go ahead and click down here on Create Outlines. So now let's go back and we're going to select this text again, deselect the background, and now we're going to make sure these are all in line, which they should be, but I moved one around. So we are going to move these so that they're spaced out evenly. And so the first thing, you're going to want to make sure that you have this align section over here in your properties panel. If it's not there, if you can't see it, you can go on up to window, click align. So I have it, it's in my properties panel here, and you click the arrows to see the rest. And so here is where we're going to be using distribute spacing, and this is where we're going to make sure it's spaced evenly. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to select the object that the others are going to be spaced against, starting with. You need a starting point, and so we're going to click the S, and that's going to be the starting point here. And we are going to go through and we want to see, okay, so I already figured this out, it's 0.11. And so when I click that, we can go ahead and hit the horizontal button here. The vertical would be obviously vertically spaced, but we want these horizontally spaced. So as soon as I click this, it's going to make them, it's going to put 0.11 inches between each, making them all evenly spaced, like that. Now when I did this before, it was a different font, so so that's too big. We don't want it that big. So all you do is make sure this is still selected, and then you're just gonna go ahead and we'll just play around with it a little bit, and maybe we'll make it 0.08. And maybe you want it just a little bit bigger. Let's try 0.09. And that looks pretty good. So now we want to make sure that this is centered perfectly underneath this box here. And in order to do that, we really need to group these letters together, these other objects together. And to do that, super simple, with all of them selected as they are now, you're going to simply hit Control G. And now Control G is going to group them all together so that they're one object. If you need to go in and edit one of these objects for some reason, all you need to do is double click, and you see here you're in the group, and then you can move things around or add something. I just want to show you that, so let's get out of there. So now that these are grouped, you can then shift click the box, and then remember we click it one more time to make this the object that these are going to be centered under. And now again in the align box here, we have this one for center align, horizontal align center. So now everything is all nice and centered up and it's good to go. And honestly, it took me a while to do that because I was explaining to you everything. Again, if this is all grouped together, we click on this, we want to change the font. Let's go over here and change it to white, okay? And so now when you're done, if you want, you can also select all of that and then you can group all of that together. And now we just have this one item and one sticker all done. And then, you know, the nice thing about this is, you know, once it's done, you can always make copies of it, and then you can go and you can double click in here and you can change the color. And let's do that. Let's make this blue, you know, and now you have all these different stickers that are ready to go. And so it does seem like a lot. It's overwhelming, I'm sure, to watch what I just did. The one other thing that I do use Illustrator for, besides these simple ones, is if I draw something in Procreate. So let me get rid of all these. I'm going to just delete these, okay? And I'm going to import something that I drew in Procreate. And to do that, you're just going to go up here to File, Place, and that's how you import something. And here we are. Here's my karate thing that I drew in Premiere. In Procreate. So I drew this in Procreate, and you will notice, because Procreate is a raster program, if I zoom all the way in on this, you're going to see that it starts getting quite blurry. You're also going to see that I can't change this color because it is just an image. And I'm not able to do that here. So what we want to do is we want to take, and this works best if it's black and white images like this, crisp, clean edges. You don't really want to try to do this with anything that has any complicated coloring or textures. Go ahead and trace this, and then what it's going to do is it's going to turn it into a vector image. And let me just go about, while it's selected, I'll just show you how this works. We're going to go over here to image trace, and okay, we're just going to say okay to continue. And now it has traced it, but in order to complete it, see, you can see that there's a white box around it now, you're going to have to hit expand. So that just finishes it all. So you hit Control Shift and D, and that's going to make the background transparent so you can see what's actually part of the image. Like you can see there's a white box around it. So after you've expanded it though, if you go ahead and hit ungroup, because they're automatically all grouped together, you'll be able to see that these are actually all separate pieces now. It has now traced this image so that it is a vector image. It doesn't matter how far I zoom in on it, the edges are still going to be crisp and smooth. So that allows you to be able to make it as big or small as you want without losing anything. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all these. We have this vector image. But what's nice about this as well, not only the fact that it's now vector, is if I make copies, again, I'm going to hold Alt down, click, and drag, okay? And then Shift D. And then I'm going to highlight all of these, click Alt drag, if it will participate with me, click Alt drag, and then Shift D. And look how quickly I've just made all of those copies. So great. And now what I can do is I can go in here and I can click on it, and now I can change the color of the outline here. I can do that and make that a color. Now, if I had wanted to say color in the background instead of the line, then I should have not deleted that white. I mean, you can do that as well. Now that we know how to go into the programs and create the stickers, let's talk about how to export them and pre-crop them. Now, let me just start by saying you really should save all your PNGs into a folder. You can create folders inside of folders, but you do need all of them to be in one main folder so that we can zip them in order to export them. So let me show you how to export from Procreate. Okay, so jumping back into Procreate, I'm going to show you how you can export your pictures. Let me just turn off these layers. We're going to turn off the background layer. I did mention before that you want to make sure that you have a transparent background, so you want to turn off your background layer. The other thing you want to do is you want to make sure that your image is the size of the canvas, if that is possible. So even though you take the background off so you won't see the white, the box that's around the image is still going to be there. So if you don't pre-crop this, if you don't make it the size of the image now, you will have to pre-crop it later after it's exported. You can do that, it's fine either way. So first you want to turn off the background, and then we're going to go over to gallery. Okay, we're going to come up to select, and then you're going to select your artboard, and then you're going to click share, and you're going to click PNG. That's the one you want, PNG. So you're exporting it, and now is where you're going to figure out, now you're going to decide where it is you want to export it to, whether you have a folder, which I would suggest doing. I usually export to my drive, and I do everything kind of in my desktop, my laptop, but that's totally up to you. You can create folders in here and export it that way. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to export from Illustrator. Okay, so this is actually makes things so much easier. Even if I've created it in Procreate, I will usually pull it in here and export it if there's a lot of them from here, because, well, I found a little trick that will allow you to export everything without having to pre-crop any of it. So let's start over here with our karate outfit, and I have made this as big as I can to where it gets to the edge. So you want it close to the edge of the artboard. I don't know if you can see this, so let's turn the white back on. Okay. Now the artboard is too tall. So if I was to export this at this point, the box would be the size of the artboard, right? So it would be okay on the left and right side, but it would be way too tall on the top and bottom, and I would then have to go in and manually crop this, either in the computer or in Goodnotes. And so what we want to do here is, if you come over to the left and the properties panel, you're going to see edit artboard. And so if you click edit artboard, you now are able to edit the size of this artboard. So you can come in and you can manually come down and you can resize the artboard based on one of these little nodes by pulling it in and getting it close. And as long as you get it close, don't want to cut it off, but get it close, and that's basically going to create your pre-crop, okay? And then if you're done, you can just hit export, and now you have your one item. But the other nice thing about doing this is, like I showed you before, that, hey, I want to offer this karate outfit, but I want to offer it in 30 different colors. So what you can do now, I'm going to zoom out, hold alternate, I'm going to zoom out a bit. And so what I can do is once this is all set to go, if I hold alternate, click and hold on the artboard, and then drag over, I can make a duplicate. And it duplicates not only the artboard, but it duplicates the item on the artboard. So I can hit shift to keep it straight, right? And now let go, and I have artboard one copy, I guess they call it, okay? So now I have two of them. So I can do that again. Now Control D does not work when it comes to the artboards. So you have to manually do this. Let's say I want to do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Slide this over a bit. What I can do, instead of doing that over and over to get to 30, we're going to do 15. We're not going to do 30. We're just going to show you. Basically, I just hit shift and clicked each one. You can see they all have blue. They're all selected. And now when I hold Alt, click, and drag down with the shift key to keep it straight, I'm now copying all of those. And then I can go ahead and do that one more time. And just like that, I now have 15 copies of the artboard. Okay, I can now go back and recolor these to whatever colors that I wish to color them. And okay, I'm not going to waste your time going and changing all of these colors. Okay, so now we have all of these artboards, all these individual PNGs. So what we can do at this point is we can go over to File, and now when we go to Export and Export As, okay, so this is how we're going to export these as PNGs. When we go to export, there is this box here, use artboards, okay? We're just gonna say, we're gonna name this though, Karate PNGs. Let's create a folder for it. That is best practice here. Let's rename this Karate, okay? And now we have the Karate folder selected, Karate PNGs. We are now going to click artboards, and you see all artboards selected. If you wanted to export only certain artboards, you could pick a range here. But because you have this selected, they're all going to export individually. So let's go ahead and hit export. And we don't want a background. We want to say transparent background because we don't want the box around the outside. They're high resolution images, 300, art optimized. Click OK. Okay, give it a second. It might take a minute. Okay, so those have all exported now. We can now go to our desktop where our folder is. And when we click in there, we can see that, I don't know what happened here, but we can click and see that all of these have exported as PNGs. You can see the size that they are cropped to where you need them to be. You can't see that here because they are transparent PNGs, but they are, the box is cropped to where it needs to be. So there's not anything else you need to do here. And this has saved me so much time because I have sticker books I've been creating where the same sticker is offered in 30 different colors. So I can do it that way, or I can go and do it the next way that I'm about to show you, and how you can crop your images from the desktop. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to undo all of this. Let's get back to our original picture. We're going to get back to the original. Oops, too far. Okay, let's zoom in here. All right, so here's that original one that we had, and it has way too much space on the top and on the bottom. Either way, it doesn't matter. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to export this as is. File, export, export as. And let's go ahead and let's leave it in here. Transparent. Okay, export. So now let's go and let's open up this PNG that we just created. And here it is. You can see that it now has a much bigger area around it. So to crop it from the computer, you want to bring it up, double click on it, okay, edit, and now here we're in crop. So now at this point, you know, you can see where the box is, and now you'll be able to go in here and crop, and it may look different on your computer depending on what you use to bring up pictures. And now we have this nice and cropped, and now we can save it. Well, we don't really need to save it as a copy, but we can go ahead and save it as a copy. Okay, so now we go back in here and we can see it is now saved and cropped like the other pictures, but it was a much more manual process, and then you would have to do that for every one of the color variations that you have. So you can see how that could save you a lot of time by just going ahead and doing this in Illustrator. And before I jump out of here, I did want to just go ahead and show you about sizing these artboards and sizing these your actual images, because these artboards I have here are 3 by 4 inches, and so once they were cropped down, they're probably closer to 3 by 3, maybe a little bit smaller. You really don't want it to be too much smaller or bigger than that. Keep them between 3 and 4 inches. And the reason being is that once you export these from Illustrator, they are no longer vector images. You're exporting them as PNGs, so they are now they're now raster images, okay? And so if you export them, if you create them in here too small and you export them, if you zoom into them at all as a PNG, they are going to be fuzzy. So let's do this. Let's make this teeny tiny now. I mean, it doesn't matter as far as a raster image. Look how big it is, okay? It's really small now. So let's go ahead and edit this artboard. Okay, look how tiny this artboard now. Okay, so the artboard is only 0.2 inches by 0.2 inches, so it's pretty small. But to you, you zoom in and it looks the same on here because this is a vector image, so it doesn't matter. It's still cute, still small. Okay, now let's export this. Export as, and we are going to say test raster so that I know to use artboard. Okay, transparent, fine. Okay, so now let's go back in here and let's find our raster. Here we go. We're gonna bring it up and see how tiny it is. And now when you go to zoom in on it, we see how pixelated it looks. Terrible. So when somebody brings that into their GoodNotes or into their digital planner, that's how it's going to look if they make it any bigger than that teeny tiny image. And then you might think, okay, actually let me go back and let me compare that to the regular one that we brought in, and you see that, you know, it gets a little pixelated as you zoom in, but you're not going to be using a sticker that big. So it's not too bad, you know, it's still pretty clear, but look how big it is. You can then go ahead and say, oh, well, I'm just gonna make it huge, and that way, no matter how big, maybe I'll make it 8 inches, and then no matter, you know, how much they zoom in, it'll still be clear. Well, I learned the hard way that that's not something that you want to do, because the bigger you make the image, the larger the file is going to be. And so when you go in, and whether you're creating a sticker book in GoodNotes or whether your customer has got a bunch of stickers on their iPad and they're using it, it takes up a lot more space, and it will also cause GoodNotes to freak out. I had it closing on me over and over again when I was trying to create a sticker book in there, and I had to go back and resize and export all of my clip art and my stickers again because it was just way too big. So you can play around with it, you know, export different sizes, bring them into your GoodNotes, kind of see, you know, you want to make sure it's clear to where you're zooming in at a decent size, but also not too large of a file. So something in that sweet spot would be good, but I just find 3 to 4 inches in Illustrator usually tends to be a good size. Okay, so for pre-cropping in GoodNotes, I'm going to show you that in a minute when I show you how to bring your PNGs over into GoodNotes to create your GoodNotes sticker book. So let's get into creating the GoodNotes sticker book now. Okay, so when you're creating your GoodNotes sticker book, you can really make it as simple or as cute and functional as you want. Okay, so you can go anything from just having a plain white background sheet, which I really don't recommend, to just importing an image maybe that you drew in Procreate, or maybe even just have a solid color background image. Or you can make it as fancy as creating an actual hyperlinked sticker book. Really, it might depend on a few things. Well, how much effort you want to put into it, but also how many stickers do you have? You know, if you only have a page or two, a few stickers in that particular sticker book, then you don't need anything that's fancy and hyperlinked. You could just make something cute for the background and then bring your stickers in. So first I'm going to show you the simple way, just import just a regular picture into GoodNotes, and then we'll create a sticker book from that. So let's jump into there and I'll show you that real quick. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how you can go ahead and you can create a page right in GoodNotes to use for your background for your stickers. You don't have to create a sticker book. You can just go to New, and then you can import an image. Any image you might want as a background. I'm just going to go ahead and use this one. It's just a pattern. And now you can use this as your background for your stickers. If you end up needing another page, all you need to do is slide to the left and it will automatically duplicate that page. You can use many different programs, anyone you want to create a background image. You can use Procreate, you can use Illustrator, you can use Canva, Photoshop, InDesign, whatever you want. Just export it as a PNG or a JPEG, and then you can bring that right in the same way I just showed you through image. So now once you're ready and you have your background ready to go, or your sticker book, and you want to start importing images, what you're going to do is click the 3 little dots at the top, and then you're going to hit a split screen. Now you're going to want to click down to your file here, where your files are, where your PNGs are stored. Okay, and now you'll have this split screen here, and now it's just a manual process of dragging and dropping each image, each PNG over into GoodNotes. And as of right now, you have to do these individually. As of right now, there's no way to just, you know, bring them all over at one time, unfortunately. Okay, so once you have the ones in here you want, just so that you can see this better, I'm going to go back to full screen. Okay, so now mind you, I have selected the picture here, and that means these are all considered pictures. So when I click on them, I can now move them around. I can click this little arrow and I can resize them or twist them around or whatever it is I want to do. There is another way you can do this, and I do want to show you, because the image thing couldn't be an issue if this is over a background that has a hyperlink. So if for some reason you have a hyperlink underneath, maybe you're using an actual sticker book, the other method you can use would be to click the little lasso tool, and you can just lasso the item, and now you can move it around that way as well. You can tap on it and you can resize, hit resize, and then you can resize it the same. So that just makes it a lot easier if you have hyperlinks, if you're using these actually in a planner, or you have hyperlinks in your sticker book. So let's go back to the picture one, because this is the easiest. You just tap on it, here we go, resize them to what you want. I do find what's easier for me is what I will use the lasso tool for is when you bring these in, if you want to resize a bunch at the same time, you can take the lasso tool, lasso all of them, tap, resize, and now you're gonna resize them all together. And that a lot of times is easier to do. That way you can just drag and drop them in and get them all in there and then resize them all at once, and you're good to go there. So the last thing I want to show you is how, let's go on the picture here, is how you would have to pre-crop these. Now you see mine are already pre-cropped, but let's say they're not pre-cropped and you want to crop them here. Again, it is a manual process, but you can do it. So you just tap and you go to crop, okay? And then you're gonna pull in these little nodes to where you want them to be on each side. It's always gonna be a square. So if you have a round one, you just wanna get it as close to the sides, but it's always gonna be a square. And then once you hit done, it will be pre-cropped. And then you can position them wherever you would like to position them on your sticker book. Okay, so now we're here in InDesign, and I'm going to show you how you can create a hyperlinked sticker book to use in Goodnotes to add your stickers in there. And you might want to use this method when your sticker book is containing quite a few stickers in it, where you'd want them to be able to navigate to find what they need. If you only are creating 1 or 2 sheets of stickers, this may not be necessary for you. And this can really be done in any app that you can create an interactive PDF in. You can use Keynote, you can even use a Word document. That, of course, InDesign is my preferred method, and that's what we're going to be using today. So first I want to explain, I'm just going to explain some of the basics that you need to know, and definitely not everything in InDesign. So really where we're going to concentrate over here for now is we're going to look on this side over here under Pages. If you're not seeing that, you can go to Windows and click Pages. And here you can see the top are the parent pages, okay? These are pages that can be used over and over again to create the pages in the actual document. So you definitely want this for pages that you're going to make multiples of. And then down here is you're gonna see the actual document itself. So first we wanna make sure we're clicked in here somewhere. And what I would like to show you first is how to start with the background. And this is how I work. I usually start with the background first. I can't move this because I have locked this layer here so it wouldn't get in my way, but you can see this is just a picture that I've added to the background of this image. Other elements that you will see on this page are the blank sheet of paper. I have a coil here, and then I have some tabs for which hyperlinks will be added to later on in the process. Okay, so really quickly I'm going to show you how to go ahead and create a new parent page and how we can go ahead and create something simple like this. You don't have to have the coil, you can have the tabs up top. You don't even really have to have tabs. I mean, you can have hyperlinks on the first page to take you over to the page that you need. It's really up to you. It's just on your preference and the aesthetic that you're going for. So to create a new parent page, you're just going to go over here. You must be clicked in here somewhere in order to create a new parent page. If you're clicked in here, it's going to create a new page in the document itself. So click somewhere in here and we can go ahead and hit the plus sign, and it's going to create a new parent. Next thing we're going to do here is we are going to rename this parent page. So you just right click here, and then we're going to go down to parent options for parent A, because that's what we're clicked on. And here you can change, you have the options to change the prefix, the name, and then I will actually get into this in the next parent page that we create. So for right now, we want to just name this, and I'm going to change this to background 2 because I already have a background here. And we're just going to click OK. And that's all we're doing right there, is we're just naming the page. So now we're going to start adding elements to the page. First, we're going to start with the sheet. Let's go ahead and let's add a rectangle here. Okay, it's going to be kind of hard to see. Right now it has no fill, no stroke. You can see that here. You can see that here. And you can also see that up here. So we want to go ahead and we want to make this white. Again, you still can't see it at the moment, but what we're going to do now is we're going to add, oops, click on it, we're going to add a drop shadow here. So if you right click the mouse, you can go to effects and we can go to drop shadow. Okay, so let's move this out of the way so we can see what we're working with here. And here you could just adjust the settings until it looks something like what you like here. I mean, it's kind of, this is kind of a dark. We'll lower the size a little bit. Maybe we'll lower the opacity a little bit. Sorry, that was the distance. Size a little bit. Let's do the distance a little bit more, just until you see something that you think looks good. It's really just to add a little extra. It's not the end of the world. But actually, let's go ahead and let's add a background, which will also help. So to place an image in here, if you have an image of a texture that you want to create, and you can always create another box the size of the page, and then you can fill it in with a solid color if you would like. And now, because I did this out of order, we have to send it to the back. If you need to rearrange, you could just right click on the item, come down to arrange, and then you can send back. It's not giving you the option for forward because there's nothing on top of it, but you can send it backward. Okay, you can start off with something as simple as that. Add some graphics, some textures, whatever you want to do for the background. You're not going to see much of it. It's really not important. But if you wanted to, if you say you had an image that you wanted to add, like the texture I had on the other example, you would just come to File, choose your image or texture paper, and then you can go ahead and just slide that there. And again, we're going to click on it and we are going to go to arrange and then send backward. Okay, so here now we see we have what looks to be a piece of cardboard texture in the background. You come over to layers over here and you can lock layers that you do not want to be able to move. So we want to lock this layer. Okay, so now these layers are locked, so I don't have to worry about if I'm moving this around or when I'm moving the tabs around, accidentally moving that around. It could just get in the way. Okay, so next I had a coil, pretty simple. You can buy these. I purchased these off of Etsy. There's plenty of places wherever you can buy, digital graphics and elements. You can go ahead and just purchase something like that. You could possibly create it on your own. I'm not going to get into that in this tutorial, so we are just going to go here and we are just going to place that just like you would place anything else. Okay, and we'll just add that in. You can see when I placed it, it's a little large. Now resizing things in InDesign is a little tricky compared to Illustrator and Photoshop because there is this box around the outside, almost like a text box. So what you would need to do is you would need to hit Control and hold Control while you click the corner and drag it, and then it will resize. And then you can move this around to, what you want it to look like. I stretched it out a little bit. Okay, so this is totally not even necessary. This is just for stylistic purposes. But what we do want to do is we want to go and we want to add some tabs, and that I'm going to show you really quick. And we do that by, again, creating a box. So you come over here to the rectangle tool, and we're just going to click and drag and create a little box over here. Fill it with whatever color you want, just so you could see what you're doing. And then click the selection tool. So let's zoom in here. So if you wanted, you can leave it just like this. You can leave this as just a perfect square box. I tend to like corners curved a little more. So to do that, the easy way to do that in here it would be to click this little yellow box. I don't know if you can see that because it's very, very small, but this is a little yellow box here. Okay, so if you click that, it's now going to give you these little nodes on the corners. And so you can just click one and drag it in until you have a corner rounded as much as you would like. And now we have all the corners rounded. These you won't be able to see anyway, they'll be behind the paper. So next we want to line it up. We want to see where it is we want it. We can send it to the back so you have a better idea, because this will be sitting behind the pages. So arrange, and we will send back, not to back. Okay, so we'll right click, arrange, and send backward. And I guess we'll have to do that one more time, and we'll send backward. There we go. Now we're behind this sheet. And you can see, because of that shadow, it gives it a nice little effect. And so this is the area we're working with. Maybe you want to zoom out, see it's a little bit small. Maybe we want to make this a little bit bigger. If you use your selection tool here and click on it, you get these nodes. You can now stretch this out and make it a little bit bigger. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So we are going to copy and paste this, but I do find it easier if you're going to add text to this, which would be the purpose of having tabs, then I would go ahead and add that text first before we copy and paste all of these. So in order to do that, we're going to go over to the text tool over here on the left-hand side. We're going to click that. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to type some text. Let's just type it here. We are going to say, I'm going to just type tab 1 just for the purposes of this video. And we don't need that big of a box. So basically what you're going to do, we're going to come over here and you are going to want it turned so that it is vertical. So if you hover around and close to the corner, you'll see this little icon. That means that will allow you to turn it either way. So what you would do is, once you see that little icon, you would left click the mouse, hold, and now you can drag in either direction. If you hold shift, it will keep it in 45-degree angles. It just makes it easier to ensure that you're locked in the right place. Now you can let go. So now we want to see, let's just resize this box. Okay. And we want to increase the font here until it's a good size that we're looking for. That's probably pretty good. You don't want it too big. You can either line it up like that, or if you have this line up, let's just highlight this and we'll click center. Okay, so just move it around till you see, till it's somewhere where you like it, you like the way it looks. Maybe move it a little bit more. Okay, that looks good to me. I'm also going to go ahead and make this text white, so double click, highlight, and now we can come up here and change the text color. I'm going to change that to white. Maybe we want to change the font. Let's make it a cuter font, but still simple to read. Okay, let's go with that one. Okay, so now that we've created our first tab, we like it, we think it looks good. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag, make sure your selection tool is selected. And I'm going to drag a box to select both of these. And I am actually going to, while holding shift to keep it straight in line, I'm going to drag it down to the bottom. And the reason for that is because now what's going to happen is we're going to make copies. And as you make copies, anything new you create ends up on a top layer. And what we want is we want the tab at the top to be the first one and each underneath. So we're just going to work in the opposite direction. So with this selected, we are going to hold Alt, hold Shift, click and hold, and then we're going to drag it up. And that's going to make a copy, and it's going to keep it in line with where we want it to be. And now you just want to line up where you want your next tab to go. I like them to be to overhang the next slightly, but that's up to you. If you want a gap there, you can do that as well. So now, once you have your second tab, keeping that all highlighted, we want to do something called step and repeat. And that will repeat exactly what we just did, however many times we tell it to. So with it still selected, we are going to go up here to edit, and then we are going to go down to step and repeat. And when you click that, you're going to get this box here. That's going to, if we click a preview, it'll show you what it's going to do. And we want to say how many times do we want it to repeat. So we want 6 tabs in total. That's what I'm working with here. And we already had our first 2 tabs. So that means we need 4 more. So you just change this to 4. If you hit tab, it'll then show you, what it will look like if you hit OK. So let's go ahead and hit OK. Now these are all perfectly spaced. Now, as you can see, we have a gap here. And the reason I wasn't too concerned about figuring out and calculating how long these are is because of this simple step. So what we're going to do now is we're going to resize all these boxes, but we want to resize them evenly. So you're going to click and drag and highlight everything. And then you're going to, let's zoom in a little bit, click on this little arrow, here it is, the smaller arrow. You put your mouse here until you can see this double-sided arrow, which is indicating that if you click and hold, you will resize the boxes. So when you click and hold, you can now drag all of these boxes up here, and it will drag them all out evenly because you had them all selected. So now that's it. We have them all the right size that we need them to be. You might want to go back and so if you want to change the text, you just go back and click in, and maybe we're going to make all these different tab names now. Very easy to click in there and change your text. Maybe we want to make them different colors. So let's go ahead and we'll select this box and we'll make that one yellow. Let's do yellow. And then we're gonna do every other one. We'll just do yellow to make it simple. Okay, you can have them all the same, or you can have them different colors to help them stand out. And the other thing you might want to consider doing is adding, make sure you're clicked on the box and not the text. You need to be clicked on the box behind it. And we can add a drop shadow to this as well. Again, right click, effects, drop shadow, play around until you have something that you like. And that's about it for the background. I mean, for now, this is just the basic, and we will build upon this background. I'm gonna just show you really quickly how you can create a simple cover with the plus here. And I'm going to right click, come to parent options, and I'm going to go ahead, let's say this is cover 2, and I'm going to go to based on parent, and I'm going to select our background that we created, as beautiful as it is. And so what you'll notice here is, because this is from another parent, you can't click on anything, okay? I can't change anything. I can add things to the top of this, but I can't change anything. So here's the problem we'll run into, because none of these are clickable, is that when we go, let's say we're gonna add a picture. Let's add any picture to the cover. Let's make this a cover photo. This is gonna be the cover of our sticker book. And I'm gonna go ahead and drag this photo out. Okay, let's place it here. Okay, so here's the problem here. Now we have this cover of our sticker book, but see, now it's over top of these coils, which doesn't look good. We need these coils to be on top so that it looks like an actual book. Anytime that you will need to override an object in a parent page, what you would want to do is hold Control or Command and Shift, and then click on that object, and it will now unlink it from the parent page. Say, click on that, arrange, bring to front, and I can place it where I need to place it. So now it looks like it's part of the cover. Okay, so there's our very, very simple cover, our very ugly tabs, and we're ready to move on to the next and final page that I wanted to talk about, and that will be your inside pages. But this is extremely simple. I will show you what I do. I have my logo. I like to have it as a watermark on the back so that someone, you know, couldn't just try to take this whole sticker book and resell it. Sure, you can't keep people from copying the actual stickers out, but at least they can't try to resell the whole sticker book. So other things you might want to consider, maybe you want to have your store address or company name on the bottom or anything like that. How I created this is essentially the same process as the others, okay? So we're gonna go over here again, click in the parent pages. We're going to hit the plus to add a new page. We are now going to right click, and we are going to go to parent options. And so I have changed this to C, and I have changed it to inside pages, and we are going to reference the background again, not the cover, but the background. So again, everything is attached to that parent page, and now we can just add whatever it is we wanted to add here. Now that we have our parent pages done, what we do want to do is we want to add them to the document, because as of right now, there's not anything, well, I have mine added, but there's not anything added to the document. So this is the document under here. You are always going to have one page to start off with. Now this is my cover page. If you want to change this, you would just right click, apply parent to pages. And now I can apply any one of my parent pages to this page. I'm going to go ahead with our cover 2 that we created, and I'm going to say okay. Okay, so now our first page is our cover. And now, because we're clicked in here, when we go to hit this plus to add a new page, it's going to add it in our actual document. So you hit plus, it's going to just add the last one page that you had created. So we want to go here and right click, and we want to go and apply a new one, and we want to apply an inside page. So now we have in our document, the first page is the cover, and the next page is our inside page. Another way that you can add pages is to right click on the page that you want to add the pages after. And when you right click, we can say insert pages, okay? And now this is what's so amazing about InDesign is you can say insert, it says number of pages here. And then you would insert after page 2, which is automatically the one you were clicked on, but you can change that. And then you choose what parent it is you wanted to add. You can choose none, but of course we're going to choose inside pages. Actually, we have inside pages 2, isn't it? So let's say we want to add, we know we're going to have, let's go with the 6 sheets to go with the tabs. So we need 5 more because we already have 1. So we're going to add 5 pages and hit OK. Now I want to go up here and change this. Right click, apply parent, because I applied the wrong one to that one. Okay. So now here you can see in our document, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down. You can see we have the cover, and we have our inside pages with our little personal use only. And now we have our sticker book. The only thing left to do now at this point is to go ahead and add hyperlinks where we want to have them. And because of how simple this book is, it's actually pretty easy to do. We're going to go ahead and just add it to that background page that we have linked to all of our other pages. But what you do want to do is first you want to jot down which pages you want these hyperlinks to go to, okay? So ours is pretty simple. We only have the 6 pages, 7 including the cover. So basically I'm just going to make this tab page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7. Super easy. You're probably going to have something a little more complicated. So let's say you have 2 pages per section, or 2 for one and 3 for another. You just really want to go through and figure out how many pages you need. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go over to our background in our parent pages again, just double click on it. And we are going to add hyperlinks to these. And you can do that. You can click an item, an object like the box here. You can right click and you can come down to hyperlinks and add a new hyperlink. The other way that you can do that, for example, I'll show you for an example here, is you can use this placement, this rectangle frame tool. This will allow you to create an invisible frame wherever you want to create a hyperlink out of. So if I want to say make this coil the hyperlink, I can click, drag that box there, and then when I right click and I add a new hyperlink. First, let me show you the types of links. So you can have a URL. I think that's just the automatic one that it comes up with. So you want this link to go to an actual website. But most of the times we're going to be creating hyperlinks within this file itself. So we want it to go to a certain page. So you want to click this down and you want to go to page. But these are all the options that you would have. So let's click page. Make sure it's still the document that you're working in, because you can pick other documents, but that should be the default. And I want this to go to the cover, which is page 1. So I'm going to leave that as 1. I leave it as zoomed fixed, but you can try some of these different things out. And for the appearance here, you can make it, different colors, and that way when you can see where the hyperlinks are. This is the PDF appearance. I just leave it as is and click OK. And so now you're going to know that you have a hyperlink there, because you're going to see this dashed box around it. Okay, so let's go ahead over here and let's go back and let's add hyperlinks to these actual boxes. Now let me just point out one thing to you, and that is something I found the hard way, is that Goodnotes, it's not like hyperlinks in PDFs that are attached to grouped items. It will look like it's working even when you export this to a PDF and you test it on your computer. It will look like it's working fine, and then when you bring it into Goodnotes, it will not work. I'm not sure if that's an issue with other programs as far as the actual apps that you use the PDFs in, but I do know that's a Goodnotes thing. It doesn't matter if you're creating this in Keynote or any other app. If you have grouped items and you attach a hyperlink to it, it will not work properly in Goodnotes. I don't know if they've fixed that, but as far as I know, they have not. So that is one thing to be aware of. That's the other reason why I like to just go ahead and just create the frames, because I know that nothing is grouped and nothing is attached, and I won't run into an issue. But we also know over here, we have not grouped the text to the boxes, so this should work just fine. So we're going to click on the box, it's the one in the background. We're going to right click, we are going to go to hyperlinks, and we are going to create a new hyperlink. And now it should still say pages, because that's the last thing you use. And we want tab 1 to go to page 2. So we're just going to change that to page 2. And so now you can go down and you can add all of these. One other thing to note is, because this box is back here and you can't see that, if someone were to click in this area here but not quite on the tab, that still would take you to the hyperlink. Another reason I usually prefer just to use the rectangle frame tool. But so now you can go in and you can add all of these, and if we go and we click in our document, you can see that these hyperlinks have been added to all of them. Okay, so now you can see that those hyperlinks are now on every page. No need to go and add them all. So one other thing I wanted to show you about these hyperlinks is how you can edit them if you need to. If you go and you click on this and you right click and you go to hyperlink, you're no longer going to have the option to add a new hyperlink. You're going to have the option to edit the hyperlink or go to destination. Now you see I have a shortcut here. I actually created that on my own because when you're making big planners, there's so many hyperlinks. It's so much easier if you just create a shortcut for yourself. But, so just ignore that because you should not see that on your program. But you can edit or you can go to the destination. If you click edit is the easiest thing because you can see the destination here. You can now update if you needed to change that and then click OK and that will now be updated. So that's really it. That's everything you need to know for a simple sticker book. I'm sorry if that was a bit overwhelming, but you can also do this in Keynote. It's going to be the same principles. You want to basically create your background, your pages, your hyperlinks, and then set it up for how you want it. And now, since we are all set, all we need to do is export this so we can bring it into GoodNotes and actually add the stickers. So do that by going to File, and we're going to go to Export. And then we're going to go to PDF, but you want to make sure it's an interactive PDF. So you have PDF print and PDF interactive. Interactive is the one that's going to contain all those hyperlink information, and that's what you need in order to have this functioning in GoodNotes. Pick your folder, wherever you want it to go, and go ahead and hit save, and that's all there is to it. Let's go ahead. I will do this to the desktop because I can show you right in the computer how the hyperlinks will work. And when you hit save and come in here, I just leave this information. This should be the basic information that comes up. I want all my pages. I want to do it as pages and not spreads. This is not really relevant to how we have our document set up anyway, because we have it set up as pages. We're just going to leave as is. Okay. Give it a second and it should pop up. Okay, so now here's our PDF. And the hyperlinks should work in here, so you can test them in here. But I also highly recommend testing in GoodNotes itself because, like I said, there might be some kinds of issues. Like if they were grouped, it would look like it worked in here and it would not work in GoodNotes. So I would still suggest trying it out in there or another app. But we are going to be bringing it into GoodNotes to finish creating the sticker book anyway, because you will have to actually manually add these stickers into the sticker books in GoodNotes. Okay, now that our sticker books are all ready to go, we have to export them as a GoodNotes sticker book if we want them to work the way that they are intended. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit this arrow to go back to your main menu here. You're going to click underneath where your title is. There's a little drop down arrow, and then you're going to click export. And now what you want to make sure is that this GoodNotes one is selected. You don't want it as a PDF or an image, or it's going to flatten it and those stickers will not be able to be used. You want to include your background page. You can include annotations if you have any. I don't have any, so that doesn't really matter. And then you're going to go ahead and click export. Okay, and now you're going to send it to where you want to send it to, whether that's your files or your Dropbox or your Drive. See that? Send it to my Drive and then upload, and you are good to go. Now that we have all of our files exported and organized into folders, we're ready to move on to the next step. So, in episode 7, I'll be going over what to do with those files when your customer orders them so that you can get them out to them. So make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so that you don't miss any upcoming episodes. If you found value in this video, if you wouldn't mind giving it a thumbs up and or leaving a comment, it would really help me out, not only for my channel, but it really helps me to learn what types of things you guys might want to see in the future. Heck, even request it in the comments. What do you want me to do? I'm here for you. In the next episode, we're going to be going over all about how to make digital planners. So if that's something you're not really interested in doing, maybe you have different digital products that you're planning on selling in your store, you can go ahead and skip that video. But only that one, because in episode 5, we're going to be going over how to create your listing photos and videos for your listings on Etsy. And you definitely don't want to miss that one. See you in the next one.